are participating in fair fares, right? The city council has called in a letter this week to increase the number of discounted fares that are provided through Fair Fares, Atlantic Ticket, Freedom Ticket, etc. We'll be testifying on Monday at a city council hearing on the capital plan and transformation, and including statements that saying that's great. There should be increased participation in those programs, but the city also has to participate in funding it.
Yes, I do.
Can I add just from the committee meeting?
Use your mic, please.
So one thing that Transit was saying was it took a little bit to get fair fares up and rolling, so that they have 210,000 Metro cards that have been issued by the MTA, but only 78,000, because they're issuing them to NYCTRC and all these other places. The 80,000 is what's actually in use now and has been put out there. So it's early in the data collection still of even getting that 210,000 actively being used.
And they're expanding it in January.
They'll put out a bunch more. That's it.
Yep.
Yvonne was next.
Can you come and use a mic?
You come, or we'll hand you a mic.
Okay. For the police, is that just for the subways or also for the buses? Is that also for the buses? Because I got to tell you, SBS, there's a lot of people not paying.
These mics are not working.
Sharon?
And the other kind of fare evasion is the guys that wait at the airport stops and buy your passes. And
Absolutely.
I don't know why we haven't.
Thank you. It's on now.
I mean, I bring it up every meeting practically.
Yep. Yeah, at the air train there, it's bad. Yeah.
It's just because I agree with Sharon, because when I have to go to the Jamaica station for the Long Island Railroad ADA Task Force, I never hardly see any transit cops or the regular Long Island police there, and their headquarters is right there, and I don't see them doing anything.
Where is this?
Queens, Jamaica.
Jamaica LIRR?
Yes,
Yeah.
and the Parsons last stop. There is nothing being done in that area. And even today, if I go on the F train, there's homeless now still getting on and sleeping on the trains. On the F and E, it's really
Well, in the winter, it's the C, the E, and the R because they don't come out of the ground, so they're the warmest.
Yes, but it's still an issue that needs to be brought to attention in all lines as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, since we're on the topic of fare evasion, about a year ago, I brought up the memo of understanding between the city and the transit police to maintain, which was written when the merger took place under Giuliani. And I don't know if anyone is able to follow up on that. But now I'm concerned that if Cuomo hires 500 new MTA police, that the NYPD can decide, oh, well, we got all these extra guys roaming around in a different uniform.
We'll
Let's take
reassign,
our guys
yeah.
and put them back topside. So that's a
good-
unintended consequence of this hiring.
So we can ask that next month.
Yeah, we will definitely ask that. Thank you. Mr. X?
I see no basis for extra cops, whether it's New York City Police Department, whether it's MTA Police Department, which is more dysfunctional. I've complained about both police departments in the past. I've seen officers under both umbrellas piss me off to the point where I wanted to make them like Douglas Sussman and Peter Calico, just to name a few. Okay, regarding the New York City Police Department, I've stated numerous times the cops under that umbrella mistreated me outside Staten Island. As you know, the transit police districts, like outside that borough, and cops who were assigned to some of these districts mistreated me. I mentioned this to Howard Roberts, who looks like Captain Kangaroo, no response. I mentioned to James Hall, looks like Alfalfa. He gave me a smart-ass remark, and you were present when that happened. I didn't appreciate that. He had the audacity to say they had a right to be disrespectful to me. There's no excuse for that. Okay, when Tom was the TA president, I mentioned to him in 2010, he gave me a smart-ass remark. You were present on that day. Okay, and then we got the MTA Police Department. Well, I remember when there was no MTA Police Department, it was just the Long Island and Metro North Railroad Police Departments, and I watched cops under both under both railroads mistreat me. But I took more abuse from the Metro North Railroad Police Department, particularly at Fordham Station, also at Marble Hill Station. They should be more concerned about patrolling the station, just keeping us safe. But
I think they
apparently,
should do it all.
they're more concerned about their own agenda. I've stated, I told former Metro North Railroad President Peter Canito, who looks at Eugene Levy, I was illegally charged with trespassing 125th Station over 15 years ago, and he ignored me.
We got the point. You
Okay,
know,
but
the
also
police have
mentions
been-
his assessor, Howard Perma, who looks at Rick Moranis.
We
He
got
also
it.
ignored me. So, like I said,
One of my big concerns is with all of this fare evasion on buses and on the subways, some bean counter is going to look at the fare boxes of those things and going to say, we have a lot fewer riders. Maybe we should cut some service. That's my concern. So anything we can do to stop it, and by the way, that's actually hurting poor people, this fare evasion, because it's going to deprive poor neighborhoods of service, and that's not good. So,
Okay.
you know.
well,
At the same time, they need to capture data
Yes.
on fare evasion to
We
see
need to
where
know
it's
where.
happening, how much is actually being drained.
I have seen
Let them
stations,
capture it.
believe it or not, that have, I don't know, maybe I've reported it already. There's actually an entrance to a station, an unattended entrance that actually still has the normal turnstiles. There's no fare collection, there's no booth, but all times of the day, there's turnstiles that anybody can go over. I was amazed to see this at the President Street end of Carroll Street station, inbound side. They must have forgot that they left the regular turnstiles there and didn't put the normal exact fare that they do on accessory entrances. But in any event, let's move on because we have a lot to talk about.
Late, but since you're bringing up fare evasion, and especially, I don't know if you cover this, about all of the buses whose fare boxes go out of, don't work, and all of a sudden the driver will put in a card in there and it says, no fare, don't pay, or no fare, or not working. And I wonder if there is anybody or any way of keeping track of that, because that's not fare evasion, that's just broken equipment.
That's a question for
But-
today's speaker, actually.
Oh, so you don't know the answer to that? Well, then
But I'm sure they're keeping track of
along
it.
with all my other things. No, I don't know, because they say bus ridership is down, and it may not be.
It may not be. Even the chief financial officer said he's not sure bus ridership is down, but he's positive paying bus ridership is down.
Well, that's, but if they tell you don't pay.
Well, that's today.
then
Yeah,
if they tell
absolutely.
you don't pay, then it's down.
Obviously, that's not your fault. There is a fairly controversial issue coming up before the commuter rail committees in December. The unions and our own representatives have spoken about it. It is and this would start in early 2020, discontinuance of cash fares on the Long Island Railroad. So this presumes you have another way to pay, either with a smartphone or with a credit card, but they are talking about not accepting cash if you board and you have the wrong fare, like you have to pay the differential between rush and non-rush, or you just forgot to get a ticket or whatever.
Or the ticket machines are broken.
Or if the ticket machines are broken, that's not your fault, obviously. So that's going to be a quite controversial topic. Stuart.
Have they done a pilot to see?
No. And they're only talking Long Island Railroad. Yes, this is a pilot, that they're calling it a pilot, but it's all of a sudden not allowing it. It's on all lines and of the long, yes, Sheila.
Isn't Metro North cashless already? No?
So stay tuned for that discussion. You may have seen in the news, we have some new people here. We have a Chief Transformation Officer in Anthony McCord, and we now have a Chief Operating Officer in Mario Peloquin, or Peloquin, I don't know how he pronounces it.
Call him Pelican.
They are both from Canada, from different places in Canada. It remains to be seen how all this will play out, what it will mean for the agency presidents and what they currently do, and what of their tasks and function will be removed from them, which could have an effect on our favorite agency president. And so we're watching to see. It may not bode well for Andy's continued presence here, but I hope I'm wrong on that. But I have communicated with him, and he says, well, I'll have a good legacy here in any event, so that doesn't sound like very promising. But hopefully, this new chief operating officer comes from Thales, the company that we continue to use for various CBTC and electronics installations. Don't know if that means we won't be able to use them anymore, or if they're going to get special treatment. I just don't know how that's going to play out. For the other companies, Siemens and Thales are joined together on many of our projects, so that remains to be seen. We hope to learn more after the December meetings, and we will, of course, keep you posted on this.
And we'll invite them to speak at upcoming
Yes, we will definitely invite both of them to come to future meetings to speak to us. Lisa and I had a meeting with State Senator Gennardis. There are several transit issues in southern Brooklyn that he brought up to us that we will pursue. So it's good to get the dialogue going with as many members of the legislature as we can, because we will at some point be asking them for things as well, including...
It's not a quid pro quo.
Right, right. But the dedicated source of operating funds is obviously something that we need to be talking to as many elected officials about as we possibly can.
Can I just interject?
You can, because you continue to.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ellen and I had a great meeting also with Assemblymember Carroll, and we had a large focus of that was new dedicated operating revenue also, and he's really excited to work with us, partner with us on a couple of his ideas and ours, and so stay tuned. And he's a very enthusiastic
He's from
council
Park
member for service improvements.
Yes, Sharon? Speaker, please.
It's new business. Can I do that?
We're not there yet.
Oh.
Okay. Yes.
I did send you guys an email what he was doing about accessibility also.
Who he?
Huh?
Gennardis.
Gennardis.
Oh, yeah.
Gennardis. I did send you because the staff person.
Yep.
And it was interesting last night. It's nice to see him that he's working on transportation and accessibility. So there is he's like a breath of fresh air in that part of Brooklyn, because it is something. I'm glad they're doing something even on the computer and something.
Yeah, he was quite vocal about the fact that between the 62nd Street D-Line station and the Bay Parkway, there are 6 stations that are not accessible, and he would like 18th Avenue, since there's so many bus connections there. Apparently 18th Avenue is not on the list of the next 70, so we are endeavoring to try to get that put in.
And I agree with what he's saying, because 18th Avenue on the D it's been getting very heavy over there, and it will help some of the edge pressure of Bay Parkway.
All right, so continuing on-time performance continues really well. It actually slipped ever so slightly from October to November, but virtually indistinguishable. It went from 84 point something down to 81 point something, but the fact that it's in the 80s at all is really good news, and I think anyone who rides can see the trains seem to be coming in a much more timely fashion, and the dwell time is less, which is great. There was an article in today's The City, if anybody gets to see that, it's online, about the R179 fleet, which is on the A, J, C, and Z. Their MDBF is, while acceptable, is not as high as a brand new fleet should be, so that will be looked at really in a concentrated way, because we should be getting them all in by December, which means we will finally be able to retire the 32s and 42s. And we have been throwing so much good money after bad with those 32s. They jerk start. There's door panels stuck. The motormen don't like them. I mean, they're the oldest rapid transit cars operating in the Western Hemisphere now. I think it's time that they be retired. You agree with that? I could see that.
Well, we need new reefs.
We do need, yeah, well. All right, so something very sad and bittersweet to report. It's good for her, but it's not so good for us. Veronica will be leaving the MTA board after the December meetings. She has accepted a job in Delaware, a really good job for her. Her significant other lives in Delaware, so this is a great move for her. So we will certainly miss her voice in the advocacy realm. She raises a lot of good points. It also likely means, because the mayor has 4 appointments to the board, and 1 was not approved during the last round. We don't know how long it will take the governor's appointment office and the state senate to approve any new appointments or any new recommendations that he would make. So that means it's a really stacked deck at the board. Really stacked deck,
Who,
to say the least.
Andrew, who wasn't approved and who are now the mayoral appointees?
Well, David Jones and Robert Lynn are the current
Yeah,
mayoral
because I saw
appointees.
David, and he said he
Yeah,
was.
it's an Italian name. I saw it, Zarelli.
The city's chief sustainability officer.
Yeah, that's who was supposed to be approved, but was
And
not.
he wasn't, and now.
Zarelli, right? I think that's the name. Yeah.
When does that come up again, or it doesn't?
The legislature goes back into session in
Oh,
January.
it's not till the legislature goes back
The
into
Senate
session.
has to approve it
Okay, yeah, no,
They
no,
said
no,
that-
I knew the
they said the
Senate, I
mayor
just
missed the
thought maybe
deadline.
they had,
by a day or something like that.
oh. That's why, because I thought that there was.
Yeah. So that's a bit of sad news. Hopefully, well, we're not going to get a replacement for Veronica, but we'll get hopefully a good person in there. And you should all mark your calendars. The next PCAC full board meeting will be December 5. And MTA Police Chief Owen Monahan will be our guest speaker. So don't come with any suspicious substances. Okay, so that does it for.
Take the actions now.
Yes.
What is
let's-
suspicious these days?
That's a good question. So because we did not have a quorum when I began this, we will now do what we needed to do. May we have an approval of today's agenda? Great. How about the minutes? Any corrections or additions?
Make a motion to
Substitutions?
approve.
Any objection to the approval of the minutes as submitted? I said any objections. Okay, so that's done. Wonderful. Did you want to say anything at this point? You said you were going to say something, I believe.
Sure. So we testified on last Tuesday before the joint legislative, at a joint legislative session on the capital plan. They offered us 10 minutes to testify, which is really a lifetime. But since they kept the MTA there for 4.5 hours, so we were pleased that some of the key assembly and Senate members stayed, but our testimony was just a couple of minutes. We were able to flag some concerns that we had as well, which also involved the operating budget. So which we've talked about, and as I mentioned, we'll be testifying before the City Council on Monday as well.
Lisa, for the record, and I'm not sure, I don't remember what, because I keep on switching channels, but you did a great interview on New York 1, was it, or on Channel 2? Or yes, no, but you were very succinct and talking for us, and I do that kind of thing. So, it really, you were. And for those of you who didn't see it, maybe you can get the video and send it around. No, because I'm just saying it was really, really to the point and very good. So, thank you.
I mean, one of the things we say about the capital plan is that if it's all done as written, it's essentially a writer's dream come true, right? It has all the elements of what we'd like. We'd like more accessibility projects, but it's certainly basically a compilation of all of the ideals in Fast Forward, Long Island Railroad Forward, and Metro Northway Ahead. So now the question is getting the funding. And one of the things that the city said during their testimony was that they would like to see the next capital program funding mechanisms work the same way as the current plan, which would mean that the city and state commitments would come at the end. However, the MTA needs that money much earlier this time. So we'll be advocating for the $3 billion each to come before. It would be the two revenue raisers that came through as part of congestion pricing, then the $3 billion each from the city and the state, then the congestion pricing money, and then the MTA money. So that would be the way that they'd like to see that money flow in, which would help to balance some of the significant debt issues.
Yes, the sooner we get the money, the less bonding they have to do.
Right. And the this morning we were actually at a presentation that Jano gave, which was really very helpful in sorting out the way the capital plan is being developed, and the constructs and some of the issues surrounding, putting together such a massive plan at the same time that you're transforming the construction organization. We saw a presentation at our last meeting. This sort of took it a step further, so it's a little bit later in the process. There's hope and opportunity and still some unanswered questions, but definitely enthusiasm from the people who are doing it, and that's a great step in the right direction. Rah, rah.
Okay, let's move to old business.
Oh, can I just add something?
Yes.
This morning, some of you may have seen, and there's an article out there about the shuttered stations, that there's a group on the Upper West Side that's done a count of, I think, 110 entrances that have been closed over the last number of years. So one of the parts of the story is reopening stations and whether it would trigger ADA. I don't know that our understanding is that, yep, that it is. So there's some political pressure that's coming to bear on that too. So that's maybe as part of new business, we can talk more about that.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Sheila.
The group is from Brooklyn, not Upper West Side.
The ones they showed were Upper West Side.
It's the elected official from Upper West Side.
Yeah, they're focused on the 103rd Street and Central Park West Station because the 104th Street
50th Street.
and 50th and 8th. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, old business.
Yes.
Old business. A few months ago, we had the contractors and the salespeople for the new electronic billboards. I don't know if it's outdoor advertising or something like
Out
that.
front.
So it seems that, I stand
that.
corrected, but my point is that along the 6th Avenue route, it's my impression, and I'm probably maybe not wrong, that the countdown clocks are being taken out and being replaced by the electronic billboards. And if that is the case, I find myself enduring 8 to 12 minutes of commercials for 30 or 45 seconds of useful information as to when the next train's arriving. And I think they should fine-tune that schedule so that I don't have to watch the same clothing advertisements while I'm waiting for the B train.
So you're actually talking about something that is standing on the platform rather than hanging from the ceiling, which are the so-called countdown clocks. They also have them against the wall, and they rotate them with commercial advertisements. That's the ones you're talking about. No, they're not.
Yes, they are. They are all over the place. They have not shut those down because I've been keeping track. I was the one who brought up about the electronic billboards at the last meeting.
I see them all over the place.
And I will tell you that they are more useful than they used to have. You could never find them when they were on eye level where there was information about the next train coming. And till you pushed the right button and got it, the train was in and out already. So the countdown clocks, which have become very accurate, I used to complain, but now they're really good. And they are still there, and this is just an added thing. So believe me, I've been keeping track of all of this because somehow I became the monitor of the countdown clocks a long time ago, long
And there's-
before you were even here.
There's such good apps now. You can have a countdown clock in your pocket. I do.
Yeah, that's
Mr.
what-
X was next, and then Bert.
So do
Thank you. As I stated before, Andy and Lisa, I was often detained here whenever you held these NYCTRC meetings. You need to tell the guards and the building owner what's happening here so we're all on the same page.
Right, today
I
I
recommend-
believe it was that they didn't know that the meeting was taking place, that
Right.
it was not a personal issue. So we'll make sure that they know that there's a meeting taking place.
Okay, I'm getting tired of them acting funny with me. I've seen people. No, I've seen too many people act funny with me over the years. I'm getting tired of that.
Yeah, today
If
was
I-
not that.
Okay, but I'm saying if I tell them what's happening, I expect them to listen carefully. Okay, if they need a Q-tip, I'll be happy to give them one.
I don't know why they
It's
didn't
what they get used to clean the wax out of their ears.
All right, we got
Glad
it.
I appreciate it.
Kurt.
Question on the MTA system on bus arrivals. A couple weeks ago, we were blessed with our president being in town, and the MTA was telling us that there were buses arriving between 6 and 7 minutes, and over 15 or 20 minutes, no buses arrived.
Telling you on the arrival things, on the
Yeah.
stops?
Yeah, and my question is, are they using the schedule or are they using actual
I
departures?
think they're using GPS. But we'll ask him when he's here.
All right, okay, because that's, it looked to me from what they were saying that the buses were using
One
the
of the
schedules.
questions one of the issues that Senator Gennardis raised with us was he has gotten lots of complaints from constituents that on Saturday nights, there is an hour gap between B37s, and that is not at all how they're scheduled. So we're going to ask him that as well.
Because I think when the president was tying up the traffic, the buses were not able to get through, and they were saying there'd be a bus in 6 minutes.
I've been using this My Transit NYC app, which is fabulous, and you can put in your favorites, like where you normally go and what trains you want to be shown. It's amazing, and it's really accurate, but you can see right on it which one is giving, it shows you whether it's giving you a GPS reading from that vehicle, train or bus, or it's the schedule that it's giving you. So we have to ask Craig that. Obviously, if it's stuck in traffic, why should the sign still be showing? Yeah, exactly. Edith, yeah. Can you put your mic on?
Not much louder. On the polls, it seems they're no longer using Q codes.
Yes.
Now, that's the problem. I can't get the number. They're at the top. They're illegally high.
Do you have bus time on your phone?
Yes, I do, but I prefer to use the Q code.
Oh.
It's my choice of all the things that they've given us. It's easier, and it's easier to teach people.
So the Q code is very high?
No, the Q code was right there at the bottom.
Okay.
It's the code, the bus stop number.
On the lollipop.
It's at the top of the pole. And, it's impossible to see. Or it's down at your kneecaps, depending. But the Q codes were much better. It was much easier. And many of us are very confused as to why whoever made that decision to remove them, we question that decision.
We can ask that today as well.
Fine, thank you.
This is right in line with what, yes, Stuart.
3 little old business items. Did we get any additional public-facing data on the success or lack of success of the Freedom ticket, the Atlantic Freedom ticket?
Yes. I
That's
don't
your
have it
answer, yes.
memorized, but it's mostly being used between Jamaica and Atlantic Avenue, or at like Barclays.
Terminal,
Atlantic
yeah.
Terminal. And then mostly, or I think 60% is one-way tickets. So the weeklies aren't being used as much. And the further out you go into Queens, the more those stations are using Atlantic Ticket. And there's some problems, like it's not available on e-tix. And
Which I've raised.
You can only purchase them from a machine or a person, and those tickets are only valid on that day. And sometimes the machines are broken. And
I want to say that, so this information that Sheila's looking at, and she's got pages and pages and pages of data, was a result of a FOIL request that somebody else made and then published. So it's not publicly available, but it is now publicly available.
Right.
But we were lucky that, fortunate to be able to
Well,
go through that
That's
and
why
see
I
all
phrased
that.
my question, public-facing data, because of the way you phrased it the last time. But again, and I wasn't going to take you on, but we have statutory authority, but even though we have the information now,
And the reason
yeah.
that Jamaica to Atlantic Terminal is the highest is likely people are waiting to see, that's the last place you can
Right.
purchase it before you have to make the decision,
the
Penn
next.
Station or Brooklyn, so.
Got it.
I
So-
must say it's also the easiest station to purchase an Atlantic ticket because there's
Tons
ticket
of
windows
machines.
and machines. So that's another.
So I'm asking staff to just summarize this, circulate it to the membership here, and then we could see whether we want to take a letter to make some recommendations to enhance what we set out to do, or just let it go. The other thing that was old business with, because I said there are three little things. The other was, did we get any additional information on station cleaning schedules for the winter? They had given
No.
you some information earlier, but
Yes.
now it's...
No, nothing additional yet.
All right, because I still see on the 6th Avenue line and the J line still stations that haven't received a lot.
Yeah, I've got one of those too.
Attention.
But the group station
right.
manager leader is gone. I don't know that they've been replaced.
Right.
So they were sort of our conduit. But maybe Deborah can help us. Yes. Oh, there is. Oh, okay. Who is that? Oh.
What's the name?
David Santorio. He used to be uptown.
Oh.
So maybe we want to
Thank you.
maybe we want to re-message through Deborah
He was very
this
good. He was very
this request to
Yeah,
let us know the cleaning cycle. And
absolutely.
and the last thing, very, very quickly,
That makes it 4 instead of 3.
No, the Long Island Railroad station and this. The F Express, some of the guests spoke about it, and I think I weighed in about that it's really not doing very much for southern Brooklyn ridership. But I have an observation. I've been testing that train. They're not waiting for the connecting A train or timing it properly so that so the next train that would have been on the local track, coming from Carroll and Bergen, is playing catch up. So they're coming in, and then you have a double group of people waiting to get the A or the C at J Street. So the interval is screwy.
The issue is likely
Yeah.
because they are only running in rush hours, in the heart of rush hours, basically. They don't make timed connections in rush hours. They just have to keep the trains moving
Right,
through.
But the interval that they've chosen, it's just not working.
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
because now with the N line being severed to Coney Island, they're using the F Express tracks south of Church Avenue for the garbage trains at that time
Oh, are they?
in the morning. So it's not really running the traditional express from Kings Highway to 18th to, it's starting to be an express at Church Avenue. So you're not gaining anything.
All right, thanks. Trudy.
Don't take it personally, but the same thing, and I've brought this up a number of times, and it happened to me again today at Grand Central at 42nd Street, where just literally the door is opened across the track. I have to switch from the number 6 to either the 4 or the 5 to get here. And literally the train is sitting there, the 4 or 5. I don't know how long it's been there. I don't know how long it was there today. And then the 6 pulls into the station, and just as the doors are opening, but not enough time to get across the track, 1 or 2 people have literally almost killed themselves by slipping on and pushing their arm in the other door. But it happens all the time. Since he is now bringing it up with the new schedule, I would like to bring it up again. It's one thing, you don't expect to see a train sitting there waiting for the next one to come in. But if the conductor can see that there is a train literally pulling in and their door is still open, I don't think it would be, especially when the next number this morning when I called Ellen to tell her about my lateness, and the next number 4 or 5, I don't remember which it was not coming in for 8 minutes.
Yeah, see,
And that
and
is
at the time you were
ludicrous.
traveling was not rush hour, so
And
they
it was
should have
not
been a meet.
rush hour. So can I
That should
bring,
have been a
since Stuart, thank you for reminding me. But
We don't know what the circumstances were, why they had to move it out.
no, but it happens all the time. If it were just an occasional thing like today, I'm saying it just happened today, but it happens all the time. I've stopped reporting it in, but since he brought it up, could we please put in a request and find out what their criteria is,
I will
and
ask.
if they can inform a conductor if they see a train coming in to use a little what we call in
It's a problem at 96th also.
It's a problem everywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
59th as well.
there had been speaking to someone who had gotten onto the train has been, the express has been sitting there for 15 minutes, supposedly. We pull in, the express is gone. I'm on the one. Yeah, I mean, it's like,
15 minutes it was sitting there?
you don't want to know. Every
That's very
single
bad for
stop
schedule.
the other day, we sat on an A. Every single stop for a minimum of 6.5 minutes. How many trains pass in front of the fucking A? Come on.
You know you're on camera, right?
It's
And it
Okay,
makes it any different?
we're going to move on. Michael?
I have a suggestion. I've been sending emails that when I'm on the 2, 4, and 5 trains, I don't hear no announcement when it stops at 14th Street. I don't hear no announcements about transfer to the M14 select bus service. And on and speaking of J line, was this X6 and Delancey? They also, all of those lines, F, J, M, and Z, all need to announce transfer to the M14A select bus service.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard it's just the M14 Select, but they didn't say A or D or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, they should add A, and
that's a good point.
and on the A line also, and sometimes the C. When they stops at 14th Street, I don't hear them say transfer to the M14 select bus service when I'm on those trains.
Yeah, I'm assuming, because it's a fairly new select bus, that they need to, all those announcements are made by the Bloomberg company, and periodically they get the announcements updated because trains change, bus routes change, and everything. I'm assuming it's going to be in the next change, but I will ask. That's a great point.
All right, thank you.
Mr. X.
Why the schedules were removed from certain guided ride signs at these bus stops remains a mystery. Andy Byford should investigate, and he should take the MTA executive director or say Dusty Rhodes with him. And it's really annoying when I don't see the schedule. So then I don't know how long I should wait. I don't know whether I should wait. There was no need to remove the schedule for that other design, which I don't care for, which other people don't care for. Those schedules need to be reinstated and leave that fancy artwork elsewhere. Place it elsewhere, not on the schedules.
Got it.
Because you're cutting into our time.
Actually, I just have a question. The Brighton line is undergoing major repairs. Okay, so I know on weekends I can't ride it. Weeknights now, I think it's shutting down. But in addition to the repairs, it seems to be breaking down quite a bit. There was a major disruption at Prospect Park a week and a half ago. It took me 2 hours to get home. And subsequent, there were more problems with the switches or the signals all along the Brighton line in Brooklyn. Have there been any explanations? Somebody told me they're actually keeping a repair crew on standby at Prospect Park because the same equipment keeps failing. I don't know if that's just a rumor or true, but there's big problems on the Brighton line. So my question is, does anyone or everyone know about it, and can something be done?
Oh, well, we've all seen the GOs for the Q line, but to get an absolute update, I will have to consult with the Senior VP of Subways, and I can do that. Yeah. How long has that been going on now?
It's been in,
2 weeks?
it's been in, it's the city.
Yeah.
Switch.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Should we do new business or go to our speaker?
No, let's go to our speaker.
Okay, we're going to introduce our speaker now because, hey, how are you? We have limited time, and he has limited time. So Craig Cipriano was appointed acting president for MTA Bus and acting senior vice president of New York City Transit Department of Buses in June of this year. He is responsible for managing the largest bus agency in North America with over 2 million daily customers. Wonder how many of those are paying customers. All right. He also manages the largest paratransit operation in North America with approximately 158,000 registrants. He served as executive vice president of MTA Bus and New York City Department of Buses prior to his appointment. I'm not going to read through all of this because we definitely want to hear from Craig.
Very impressive bio.
But it's a very impressive bio, and he certainly knows his topic. And we're very lucky to have him. And if he acts well enough, I guess he'll get the acting removed, and he will just be the president of the bus division. And he has over 30 years of public transit experience and has worked in all 5 boroughs of the bus system. So he knows what he's doing. So Craig, welcome. Mike, welcome. Mike Rybosch, who was a longtime bus person and fabulous guy, and is sick of hearing from me when I see a bus with the incorrect destination sign on it, but that affects transfer. So I call Mike, and he has the bus operator adjust the sign so that it reads properly. So welcome, gentlemen, and the floor is yours.
No, thank you so much. We're happy to be here. There are also members of my bus team around the room, and I want to just acknowledge them and say thank you for being here, having us all here today. So what we thought we would do today is have a little bit of an update on the M14 busway. It's really the first busway in New York City, and we're really excited about what we're seeing, and we're going to talk a little bit about that here today. And we're really hopeful that we could build upon this momentum of this busway, which is really proving to be. And we're going to go through the specifics, but in overall, we're seeing better speeds, reduced travel times, and the most important, exciting piece of this is that, as everyone knows around the table, we've really been seeing a decline in ridership for quite some time, right? And a lot of that is born out of the slow bus speeds that we have here in the city. But we are proving here with the M14 busway that if we can move our buses along, namely, improve upon our bus speeds, we then improve upon reliability, and the data shows that customers are coming back. And just to give you some insight into that, from July of 2019 to November, the early information in November, we've increased our ridership on a weekday by over 20%, and on the weekend, specifically Saturday, 28%. And then we look even closer.
Of course, part of that is due to the 20-minute headways on the L train during some of them.
So, Andrew, no. I'm about to tell you this. When we look even closer, now this is what's really exciting. Between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m., when the L train is running, we've increased our ridership 34% so people are choosing the M14 over the subway, and that's really exciting. So we're hopeful that we can move along, get more busways, and people will come back. And for those that are, current bus riders, and I feel you have your frustrations, if we could just get more priority, well-enforced priority, we could make it happen here in New York, and that's what we're working hard to do. So let me share with you what I have here today with the busway. So as you know, the busway was implemented October 7th, okay? And what we're seeing here is average travel times have increased, right? They increased from have improved. Speeds increased, travel times improved, so they went less. Between 22 and 36% we're seeing, depending on the time of day and direction. And speeds have increased anywhere from 28 to 56%, again, depending on time and direction. So, we have our busway, and buses are moving past there and increasing speeds. I just want to share with you a specific, what I thought was really a specific, remarkable change, demonstrable change, was in midday. Let me try to remember this. In midday on the eastbound direction, if you did this in the fall of 2018, between 3rd and 8th Avenue, where the busway is, it took you between 18 and 23 minutes. If you did that today, your average trip is, I need a drum roll, 11 minutes. Imagine that, 18 to 23 to 11 minutes, really a remarkable change, and we're really proud about that. So for those who haven't gotten a chance to be out there, this is what the M14 busway looks like. As you can see, you know, I grew up in Canarsie, Brooklyn. We used to play some two-hand touch on streets that were open like this, and you could see, you know, we definitely have our right of way. We're excited about that. So this is some early data from ridership. I shared with you the most recent data, but early on we were seeing improvements of about 17% weekday, 40% on a Saturday, average Sunday. So the current data on a weekday is approaching, is actually over 32,000. So since this was originally done, we're up to November over 32,000. And we started in July at 26,000 people. So we're excited that people are coming back. So how about, you know, where we have other bus lanes? So potential, maybe they're not busways, but to improve service other places. So we have the BX6 SBS we implemented in 2017. We're seeing travel times down there 8 to 14%, and ridership up by 7%. B2526 Fulton Street we implemented in April of 2018, and as you could see, travel times are down 13 to 21%, and speeds are up between 15 and 26%. The B82 SBS was implemented in October of 2018. Travel times are down, and ridership is up by approximately 6%. And then finally, the latest, the Q58 Fresh Pond Road bus lane. Actually, the latest information I have is that speeds have improved by as much as 50%. So that's really great. That's really great to hear.
Chris? If I may, I'm
Craig,
sorry.
but yeah, sure.
I'm sorry. No, but I want to ask why none of the Manhattan SBS routes are there, especially the M15, the M79, and the M86.
Why are they what? Why are you asking?
Why are they not, as you're showing?
Oh, these are just recent bus lanes. That's what I was saying. But what we're excited about on the M15, we just implemented the automated bus lane enforcement cameras, October 7th. Since then, and again, it's the do we have a slide on that in here or no? No. So let me just give you a little update since you asked the question. October 7th, we implemented our automated bus lane enforcement camera system. You might be aware of this. The last state legislature gave us the ability to do it across all bus lanes.
Like crazy.
And we appreciate your help. Gave us the ability to do it across all bus lanes. So we currently have the 15, the B44. Just today, we started on the M14. But between the 15 and the 44, as of the end of October, I think it was the data?
Yeah, because
at some point, we have over 20,000 potential violations that were identified by those cameras. So what we're really hopeful for is that word gets out, cars get out of the way, you know, vehicles, postal vans, and anybody else, and we can move those buses along on the 15.
May I suggest that you publicize it more, because that will help in people knowing.
So what I would tell you is, as far as publicizing, I've done more press conferences in the last 3 weeks than I think buses has done in the last 3 years.
Some signs or something.
So every bus lane has a sign, and of course we're going to do our best we can to get this word out. No doubt, no doubt. Okay, so another initiative, we spoke about automated bus lane enforcement, but we're really working hard with PD, right? We know that they really play an instrumental role as they do their manual enforcement. And there's 2 programs we have. We have our ride-along program, meaning I see folks from road operations here in the back there, and thank you. We ride along with NYPD, and we issue violations. We go to hotspots, pinch points, and NYPD helps us issue violations. Additionally, NYPD is doing, we have 16 corridors that we share with them across the city to really focus on those 16 corridors. And then they do their normal once a month. What the transportation section of NYPD does is they do blitzes with the precincts. So year to date, from January to October, we issued over 300,000 bus stop, bus lane, and blocking violations. okay? And we're seeing some improvements. Over here you see these are actually the violations, but on those corridors, we've seen some improvements on bus speeds, anywhere from 10 upwards of 17%, I think was one of our best routes there, or best corridors. So these are bus lanes by borough and type. Today we have over 130 miles of bus lanes. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, the day before, we're excited that the mayor signed the master plan. I think the master plan calls for another 150 miles of bus lanes in the next, I think it's 5 years, or during the course of that plan. And again, what's really exciting is that it's not only getting the bus lanes, but now we have the ability to enforce them with an automated system, right? So if we get the word out, the next capital plan, just to share with the group, has $85 million for this automated bus lane enforcement system. And we're going to really start rolling this out expeditiously to get this across our buses so that we can keep those bus lanes clear and move them ahead. So it's really exciting stuff there. Transit signal priority is another project. Sunil Nair is there. Thanks, Sunil, for coming. He's our chief tech officer. This is a joint program between MTA buses and DOT. The way this works is when a bus approaches the intersection, the bus sends a signal up through the cloud over to the DOT Traffic Management Center, who then sends a signal back to that signal, the traffic signal, and says, turn it green or hold it green, basically based upon the bus and based upon some traffic analysis that's been done. We currently have 700 intersections across the city. We have a commitment today for 300 more per year with DOT, but actually the transit master plan, I think, asked for 1,000 more per year, so that's more exciting. We're going to really move this out expeditiously. This is something that we focused on. You know, really we want to see what we can do. The MTA, we talk a lot about service management. We talk a lot about, you know, our ability to, manage via the what we call the bus trek system now. So we took a look at some low-hanging fruit recently, and again, road operations, the bus command center. We said, you know, on the overnight time, when there's less traffic out there, right? Let's take a look and see what we can do from a service management perspective, from a terminal performance perspective. In other words, we know that if we could get the buses out of the terminal on time, they have a better shot at staying on time throughout their trip. And we see some improvements here. We see that 209 of the 276 routes on the overnight now have, or they improved by 12%. And I think that these routes are showing, if I remember correctly, the weight assessment above 90%. I think that's what we were showing here. So 9 out of 10 buses are going to be there, you know, within 5 minutes of the headway. A little bit about the new bus fleet. So right now, every new bus that comes on the property has digital information screens, passenger counters, turn warning systems, Wi-Fi and USB. So this is a little bit of an update on those blue and gold buses. The next capital plan has enough funding for 2,400 brand new buses coming on board, of which 500 buses will be all electric, which we're excited about, really, you know, embarking on that commitment we made to an all electric fleet by 2040. Okay, so what that does is it's in the door, so when a customer boards, it counts that customer. When a customer alights, you know, it says that the customer alighted. So we use that in a number of ways. I'll share that with you if I may. On Staten Island currently, on the express buses on Staten Island, if you go up on your My MTA app, it'll tell you that your bus is 5 minutes away, and it'll give you some indication about whether you can get a seat. So customers can make a choice if they want to wait for the bus that's, say, 10 minutes away and get a seat, as opposed to the oncoming bus. Also, that's important because we could then provide that information out to our dispatchers, and if they're going to make a service adjustment, you know, we see buses bunched and no one likes that, but we have an idea of how many customers are on board that bus and how many customers we could potentially inconvenience. So that's important for them to know. And then lastly, it's important we feed it back to our partners in schedules, who I see here today, Sarah, who I saw here, and Rob, so that we could get those schedules, we could get better schedules and more adherence to our guidelines, you know, better information as opposed to the traditional manual counts by traffic checkers. So that's what we do with those. So that's another excellent point. What we could do is crash that against the fare box data and say that 100 people came on board the bus and we only collected 90 fares. So yes, that'll give us better information in that regard. Yeah.
Then can I bring up something that, since Bert just asked about paying fares, before you came we were discussing about fare evasion. And one of the things that I've noticed, because you know I use buses a lot.
You do?
No. Yeah. Anyway, one of the things is that on many, certainly the older buses, the fare box breaks, and the driver will put in a card saying, no fare, go ahead, or whatever. Does that count? Do you keep count of how often that happens? How many approximate customers it would involve? And is that counted as fare evasion, or how is it counted?
So we do keep count of that. We actually recently did an analysis because I personally myself was challenged by managing director at Haycom and said that, I see the same thing you just described. Could that be a contributor to fare evasion? And what I want to say is, no, it is not a contributor to the numbers that you see that we're reporting. Our policy is that we allow that for one trip, and then that bus should come off the road. And the reason why we allow that is because we don't want to inconvenience customers. We are accepting that loss of fare for only that one trip. But the amount of buses that have that in-service fare box, what we call roll call, failure, is a very, very, very small percentage of actually the number of trips that we do.
Maybe it's just my luck that I hit an awful lot of them. But do you keep track of the number of, no,
Yeah.
the number of, not the number of failures, but the number of customers that approximately.
Yes, we have a tracking
that would
mechanism. Yes.
that would involve.
We do.
And that's a separate compilation.
Yes.
Okay.
On the same vein of thought, if you then remove that vehicle from service when it reaches the end of its route, do you have a substitute ready for it for the trip back?
That is the goal. Okay, so a little bit about we have the future of service. So the schedule right now is that for all buses to be equipped with Omni by the end of next year. So we'll have Omni. And then, as far as the subways, I believe the subways is what, 2022? I think it's 2022. Once that happens and the MTA then can issue the MTA card, right? So that people who don't have access to credit cards, that the unbanked population can then use the card, we are going to move forward expeditiously with our commitment to all-door boarding. So we really believe that all-door boarding is a key to moving our buses along, because a large component of the speeds or lack of speeds is the dwell time. And if we can get people on board our bus quicker, it's going to help. Next year, we're going to be doing a pilot on the SBS. Al Poutre is helping us with. So what we need to do is really test some of the technology to enable that. Ellen, I see your hand. I'm just thinking. Yeah.
Those types of things for line, so you start to see the before afters of all this great work that you're doing.
Well, we do have currently. I know you're aware of it, but I'll share with the group. Our dashboard. We just re-upped it, modified it. Enhanced it with the route. Right, we're now at a route level. We have speeds. We have the bus speeds there, like you're referencing, and some of our other metrics up there. But as you said, we're continuing to work on it, refine it, and make it better. Surely. A lot of the other stuff we talked about, the transit signal priority, new bus command center. I'm just here to say that, since I've been named acting since Darrell Irick retired, it's been a quick 6 months. It's going on 6 months now. But, me and the bus team, along with, operations planning, who's, of course, a member of the bus team, we're all excited about, the things that are happening in buses. For the first time in a long time, we've really got some enablers that are really going to help us do our job better. And I'm really excited that I think our customers are going to see it on their end, too. So thank you for having me here, and I'm happy to, take any questions. You want to...
Coming back to your note about the,
Wait, I'm sorry. She has to go.
No, I'm going to go with her until they take her. Oh. Yeah, now I'm going to go with her.
I think that was it, right?
okay, you're in all these happy numbers. Where's the BX12?
Where's the
Coming
BX12
across
as far as what?
207, going across the Bronx? There's obviously none of these fantasies are working
Well,
in our routes.
the BX12 is an SBS, right?
Yes.
It does have bus lanes, and that's one of the first routes that are going to get the automated bus lane enforcement cameras as we roll this out. So we're hopeful that that'll help that route.
Okay, because it's a total disaster.
Yeah,
It's
I
an
mean,
absolute disaster, and it's not like we have any other
we have
option.
challenges all over the city. The VX12 is
No,
one of
no,
them.
excuse me. Lexington, 14th Street, they got the cameras, they're getting the cameras.
Lexington doesn't have it right
So
now.
who is it? 2nd Avenue, sorry. Up the east side. I mean, it's like we'd like to feel that we might be a little priority occasionally too.
Yeah, like I just said, BX12 will be one of the first we get as we roll this out next year. It's on the list.
In addition, we have the constant problem with walkers in the buses.
On the BX12 or all
on all
buses?
buses,
Okay.
all buses. You have such a problem with everyone in the city, particularly municipal vehicles, in every bus stop. We have a disaster what they've just done to the BX7 and what they've done to Washington Heights and Inwoods. It's a
So let me share a couple of things that we're doing. Let's start with walkers. So again, I'm not saying that this will happen overnight, but one of the things that actually I give credit to Alex Elagudin, our senior accessibility advisor. He's the one that actually approached us, quite frankly, but we're working with him to come up with new seating arrangements on newer buses to give space for walkers and others. So that's something that. Well, you've been heard. So you've been heard. You've been heard. Shopping carts, not so much right now, but walkers is on the.
Well, there are a lot of people who use shopping carts rather than walkers on occasion.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of space situation. And you can't, what usually happens is some drivers will say both to the walkers and the shopping carts, even though they're full, is fold it up. And do you know how long that takes to hold up the bus? If the driver insists on rather than making the space.
Yeah. So I know we've had some policies over time with shopping carts and strollers and the like. I know Cordell, who's in the corner there, Chief Transportation Officer, he's looking at some of those policies that we've had. So more to come on that.
I was just following up what Edith said about the walkers. Yes. I'll let her finish.
The what?
Such a problem with the securement for wheelchairs.
Wheelchair securement?
Yeah, you still have the clips. You have, unfortunately, scooters don't have. I have Tridents. I have the edition. I bit the bullet and paid for it. I'm sorry. It's really important that there on some of the buses they're the S hooks, and the other ones that just have wheelchair clips. I mean seatbelt clips. And they're a real problem. Drivers just don't bother doing them most of the time. And it's very dangerous with all those walkers and shopping carts.
Well, the one thing I could say, I hear what you're saying as far as the equipment on the bus, but one other thing that's happening, again, not here to take credit for it, it's actually Alex that has been spearheading this, is that every driver is going for sensitivity training, accessibility sensitivity training, and part of that is re-educating drivers on bus operators on using that equipment.
Okay. Well, most of what my whole laundry list was mostly covered, except for one thing, which Mike knows that I bring this up all the time, and it never gets corrected. There are a lot of bus stops that are right at the end of a block, right up against a traffic signal. Many bus drivers, when the signal is red, so they have to stop anyway, but in order to make up maybe 20 seconds or something, they will edge out as soon as the bus is loaded, out of the stop, and once the wheels are turned, they refuse to pick up anyone who gets to the stop while the bus is still stopped and while there is still a red light, so they cannot move. It happens not only to me, but I hear from everybody else, because everybody who has a problem with a bus comes to me. But especially for elderly and people who can't run that fast to get to the bus. They shouldn't leave. No, I know the policy is once they have left the curb, they can't open the bus, even though the bus part of the bus is at the curb, part is edged out. But I'm saying that why they have to, as soon as they've loaded the bus, even though they have been stopped, there is a red light, they know it's going to turn any second, but to allow passengers who get there, instead of edging out immediately, and then they say, I can't pick you up, I'm out of the bus stop. It is so frustrating, and it is so upsetting. I mean, I've seen people, including me, banging on the door. Yeah, I know, and how many times have I brought this up, Andrew? So I am bringing it up again and again, and I would like to know, is there some kind of either a policy or some kind of a GEO or something that can be ordered just to use common sense, if nothing else?
So,
Yeah, we have talked about this. And
A little bit.
In addition, we looked at the stops on Second Avenue at 79th and 86th Street for the configuration with the
No,
local.
I'm not talking about the
No, we
configuration,
looked
that's
at-
next.
But we looked at everything.
That comes next.
So we talked about the balance between safely merging out of the stop into traffic when the light changes, and the policy is when they're out of the bus stop away from the curb, and for safety reasons, they're not required to open the door.
I'm aware of the policy, and I'm not saying to change the policy. What I am saying is if the bus is stopped there and they're not going to be able to move or even to get into traffic, maybe they'll save 15 seconds. That if there is a red light and they are stopped anyway, wait until the light changes before they
Trudy,
enter the
they
traffic.
understand your point.
No, but Mike just brought up something else. He
But
told me
Trudy,
the policy.
we said at the last meeting that to get the information to us through Deborah, and we've addressed those. So if they're at the curb and they don't open
All
the
the
door,
time. I am
then-
tired of writing down bus numbers, and I think everybody in the office is tired of hearing it from me. So I am now saying as a general policy,
no,
because
what
it
Mike is
happens
saying is
all the
that's the
time.
policy. What you're describing is an individual's adherence to the policy or an individual's decision-making at that time. But our
Can-
general policy is when they come out of the bus stop, they're not required to
but
open doors
no,
for safety.
I understand that.
Trudy, hold on.
But can't there be a policy that if they are stopped at a red light, to not come out of the bus stop until the light changes? Is that so difficult?
So again, what you're trying to do is you're trying to balance out that individual bus and bus operator's decision-making versus getting that bus down the road expeditiously. So we could change the policy, but at this point, without doing any kind of analysis, what you're asking to do is if every bus operator waits in the bus stop, then waits for the light, then has to pull out, you're going to slow down the bus system that much more.
There
So
are
again,
not-
it's an individual
Okay, we're moving
instance.
on. We're moving on.
Okay, then I will bring up the other, but all
No,
I'm
Trudy,
saying is,
Trudy, I got other people waiting.
ask people to use, can you put out something that says use common sense?
Stuart, go ahead.
Okay, no, my last thing, which Mike brought up, is at specifically, and I understand there are other stops like this, we're on Second Avenue where there is an SBS. And at one place, at 86th Street, the SBS is at the front of between 86th and 87th, and the regular M15 is behind it. The next stop for the SBS, which is my corner, it's very nice, 78th, well, between 78th and 79th on Second. There, the SBS is in front, the SBS is behind and the regular M15 is in front. And people get very, very frustrated. I now to wait right in the middle, so if something is coming either way, I have enough warning to either run up front or go back.
Yes.
But for
We've
people
raised
who
this
don't
before.
know and they come running up because they see a bus, and then as soon as whichever it is fills, they pull out, not realizing that there are people who have been waiting on the wrong end of Second Avenue between 78th and 79th. Again, I'm asking about common sense for the drivers.
I actually
Or
saw
else
this
making it
last night
uniform,
on First
Or else
Avenue.
making it uniform all along, so that the SBS is in front and the M15 is behind, or vice
clear
versa.
signage to indicate, M15 local stops here, M15 SBS ahead, and where that's, because I was at 79th and First, and I saw folks not really sure where they should wait for the local versus the SBS.
But
It's
make
obvious
it
to me the
uniform
machines
at
are
all
in a
stops
certain
I was,
place.
like that.
I was just going to actually say that. It's
Yeah.
the machine
The
placement.
machines give it
and
away,
Where
but-
they are, right.
Well, you know something? Would it be so difficult to do two things? It's difficult to move the stops or the signage, though not that difficult because it's all in the
I know.
same place. Either have it
No,
uniform. The
we gotta move on,
SBS
Trudy.
stops in front, the M15 stops in
Or they
back.
have separate bus stops like everywhere else.
We're moving on because we have a host of people that are waiting. Stuart.
Hi. Two little points about signage and information. It's wonderful they have new enhancements for people who may not be familiar with the bus route or be visually impaired on some of the buses that are running in southern Brooklyn, where I live. They have audible announcements about stops. So the first little question is, how frequently is that information updated? Because just an example, on the B1, they're still announcing a stop that's been eliminated for over 2 years at West 2nd Street, and at Van Sicklen Street, there is no connection to the N train. So the first little question is, it's a great thing, but how often is it updated or checked for accuracy?
So as Andrew can tell you, he's our best quality control inspector that we have there. So, quite frankly, that's a new system, and we're using data files on over 12,000 bus stops that really haven't been exposed the way we're exposing them now. So we're looking at them, but I urge you, please, either send them directly to me, send them through Andrew. That's the kind of information we need, right? But besides that, Sunil works closely with operations planning folks to try to get that, not only to do quality control beforehand, but where we see these issues during the picks and stuff to correct it.
So it's an ongoing,
it's an ongoing initiative. It might take a little bit of while, but again, it's 12,000 bus stops. We're looking at each and
That's a
every
good
transfer
catch.
point. It takes some time. Please send us that information.
And the second little point on signage, Mr. X, one of our guests, and I've mentioned this and some other board members have mentioned this, that when you're introducing modern technology with electronic information countdown to buses arriving at stops, they replaced the poles and eliminated the guide-a-ride boxes. And where I live, they've replaced them. It took a while, but they're back because they have information that you necessarily wouldn't see on a phone, like when there's short school runs or when something terminates. And depending on how far you're going on the line, that information's valuable. Is there an effort for your field people to go around and identify where they're still missing and replace them? Is there a program in place to...
Are you referencing the guide-a-ride boxes?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
no,
right.
Actually, quite frankly, and I think that was some of the comments we heard. The MTA last year put forth a reduction proposal to eliminate changing out the guide-a-rides with current schedule information. So the information in there now is just static information. It won't be updated based upon the new schedules.
Okay, so then we have to think of a way then that people who don't have cell phones or are not technologically savvy, they need another way at the stop to know whether a run is a short run or they have to wait for the next bus, because like where I live, there are lots of special school runs. So the bus may not go to the final destination that you need to make a connection. So we need to think of an alternative.
But I'm just trying to understand. I was asking Mike, if you're waiting at the bus stop, right, and the bus services you, the destination sign will tell you how far it's going. So I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
No, the destination sign is fixed and static. It'll only tell you the end of the route or the direction it's going.
No,
in.
the actual bus. I'm saying the bus destination sign. As the bus comes to you,
That's
it'll
true,
tell
but
you the
don't-
terminal.
That's true, but it's not always accurate. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it should be accurate. I'm
We
sorry.
could speak offline about the route but
Okay.
it's, and it's just something people are looking at to know how to plan. Should I take an alternative if one is not coming? So if they had to wait for that bus to see a sign, it would still be an issue if they had time to consider alternatives.
Right. So just to give a little bit of background, I mean, from our perspective, I mean, in MTA, we, urge people to use the My MTA app. The countdown clocks are managed by New York City DOT. They have money that they get for the different countdown clocks. So, in the issue you're raising, I think the countdown clocks is what would be preferable, so you know when the bus is coming. And then we should be responsible for having the right destination sign up there. But if you're seeing issues, by all means, please share that with us.
Okay, two things. In Staten Island, the S55 in the mornings going towards the Staten Island Mall, it serves Temple High School. The first 9 stops, all the students can get on, no problem. The next 9 stops, the bus is overcrowded, the students can't get on. So if something can be adjusted somehow to.
S55, we'll take that.
Yes, 55, yeah, I got it listed here, if you want to take that.
Okay.
All right, that's quick. Another quick thing.
Okay, thank you.
I think Lisa brought this up to you guys. The bus stops in Staten Island,
Yeah.
they're in the woods.
Yeah.
You saw the PDF, or
Yeah.
do you have it?
No, we have it, yeah.
So now, does
Uh,
DOT establish that, or MTA, or?
Yeah. So those are DOT manages all our bus stops.
Okay.
So what's the issue, Scott? Tick protection?
Tick protection, poison ivy protection, lake protection, ocean protection?
Deers.
Not standing in the middle of the streets protection, yeah.
So, one of the things I would say is that in that master plan, there is, I guess, money or plans for bus stop upgrades. So those will be some of the stops we'll be
In the
looking at with
interim,
DOT.
I mean, could they pave a sidewalk there?
Yeah.
I mean, they upgrade a bus
Again,
stop, that's
again,
fine, but
we work with New York City DOT,
yeah.
but
Well, you saw some of the pictures.
yes, we do. We saw them.
The signs are actually in the woods. So where do you stand?
Yeah.
All right, so you got it.
Got it.
Andrew, how about a
Bert, go ahead.
question on the My MTA? Last week, we had the pleasure of having President Trump in the city, and the My MTA schedules were completely wrong from the way the buses were running. I know there was traffic problems, and the My MTA would say there would be a bus in 4 minutes, and 18 minutes later, no bus had shown up. This was on Madison Avenue and on 3rd Avenue. The buses, I think, were being held south of 55th Street. And my question is, were they reporting the schedules at that point, or were they supposed to be live operations?
So, I can't speak to what you experienced, but I can tell you what should have happened, right? So the My MTA app gives you actual times.
It didn't. It kept saying there was a bus 4 minutes away.
No, I understand what you said. But then what should be happening, right, it's based upon GPS. Then what should be happening, because we recognize, let's use an example, I forget what street you said you stood at, but say.
72nd Street.
Okay, 76. So say, for instance, the bus was diverted back at 57th or something, right? It had to go to a different avenue, come back around in there. So what should be happening on the MyMTA app is what happens is road operations will be sending information over to our corporate communications folks, which then loads it up. So the MyMTA app should have told you, if it didn't, I apologize, but it should have told you that, due to extensive delays, this route's on detour, so that you don't necessarily, rely on that information at that particular point in time.
So they're not putting the schedule?
It's not printed, no, that's actual.
I mean, they're not using the schedule at that time.
No, my MTA app, I'll confirm with Sunil, right? It's always actual. Is that right, Sunil? Yes, that's right. Yeah, it's always actual. But when we're on these large diversions, and another thing that could be happening, if you were experiencing tons and tons of traffic, it's using an algorithm that says, at this particular time on a normal day, it gives you, X number of minutes.
Right.
If everything is just jammed up and it's taking us, 10 minutes per block, the algorithm cannot be that accurate at that
So
point.
it's not
that,
the
that could be
schedule,
it's
the
not the
actual- it's
schedule,
still-
no.
Craig, several people here have brought up the issue of, with the removal of the guided rides, which obviously were just scheduled arrivals, not real-time arrivals in any way, so they had limited use, and when the schedule changes, they weren't changed in a timely fashion sometimes. So guided rides, I understand why you don't want to do them, but shouldn't there be something for those that are not tech savvy or don't have phones?
So that's where I mentioned we're relying and we're hopeful that we could get more of them out there, is these countdown clocks that are managed by DOT.
Yeah, I've seen
So
them.
there's money out there,
They're
and we're
pretty good.
working with them to try to, get them out there more.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
It's also important to know whether that bus is actually running. I mean, I in my stupidity one day did not realize that, I think it was the 20 was a school run. I'm like waiting out there for almost 40 minutes. And finally this kid comes along and goes, no, the school's over. There are no buses now. And I'm like, oh, okay. But, I mean, there's no clue to tell you this is a limited time bus. And in Washington Heights, where the buses stop at like midnight to 1 a.m., it's a little ridiculous to be standing out there at 168th Street because the trains aren't going up, waiting for a bus, not to know that there are no buses running.
Okay.
I mean, I would assume that was in that, in that static information in the guide ride, but we could look at that closer.
Chris?
There was no guider ride at 207. I mean, at Isham behind it. I don't know
Isham
whether
Street,
someone had
yeah.
taken it out, which is a frequent occurrence in Washington Heights. They said to like use lollipops is bumpers, I think.
Hi, this is for you.
Thank you.
That makes it simple. And you already got my comments on some other things, but as I'm looking at your technology, you still guys need to work on some of the technology when you transfer connections, because in any borough you're in, I don't ever remember on the B3 the Q train runs on Ocean Avenue.
You mean on the next
all the B3s, all the B3 buses in Brooklyn say transfer for the B49, the MB3, and the Q train, and I'm going, what?
Is that on this list?
I just found out today. I'll write it out for you. I'll write it out. No, actually, I did. I did.
Oh, you got it?
It's on number 1. But the problem is, and all those are there too. But you need. Can I don't want to be interrupt.
Please go on, Chris.
Thank you. Also regarding with the technology, it is good in some areas that you can hear it, but when the bus, there is some, I agree with Stuart earlier, because some of the countdown clocks, if say like the B1, I'm going to use for example, you have a lot of them going to Stillwell 86th Street, 13th Avenue, or just 25th Avenue sometimes, which is really Stillwell, or just going to 4th Avenue, but we don't know if that bus is going all the way. And part of the clock, and I know DOT is here, is instead of putting the minute, but it should also say that instead of saying the minute at the same time, it should say where the next bus coming, where its destination is going to. That's something I think we need to work on in the future, and I hope we can do that too. And I hope in the future we can also work on the Brooklyn Express buses, and that's what I'm going to be saying. But I do brought some brochures, because I thought you were going to talk a little bit about it.
The redesign?
Yes, in Brooklyn. Thank you.
Mr. X.
Okay. Now that you replace Darrell Irick, who looks like Flip Wilson and Geraldine, you can explain to me why I was stranded in Brooklyn Greenpoint section over 18 years ago, why I never received an apology or a
He's new to the position. He can't possibly know why that happened.
No, but I'm saying he can do it at a later date. He can tell me why I had to stand
I would love for you to
outside
raise a new
in
issue
freezing
for-
cold weather, why I didn't get an apology or confirmation from my compensation for my loss after I brought it to Andy Albert's attention several times, after I brought it to the MTA's attention several times, after I brought it to the Transportation Department's
I'll
attention
discuss
several
this with you
times.
at another time, so you'll get the history of this. But we're not going to take time up with that.
No
right
problem.
now.
So, Mr. X, so the only thing I would say is that I apologize for that.
Oh, now I get an apology over 18 years later.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, this
over
is
18 years later.
I'm in front of you, and I'm apologizing for your issue. I hope you don't experience that again.
That was very nice of Craig, considering he has no knowledge of this episode. Yvonne.
Hello.
Hi there.
I have been traveling lately, and so I go out to LaGuardia Airport. So I take the E train to Roosevelt, and take the SBS Express to LaGuardia, right? It's fine going out, but coming back, they have, you go out there and they have the machines, and I know what to do. I go and I get the ticket and I get on the bus. The bus is about to leave, and a horde of tourists. Now, I'm amazed that I'm going to defend tourists because I have this wonderful T-shirt that says, "Welcome to New York, now go home." Welcome to New York, now go home, but I'm going to defend them anyway. They come running out. They've got all their luggage. They run on the bus. They don't know they're supposed to get a ticket. There's no one there to help them. Then they get off at Roosevelt Avenue, and the cops are standing there, and they want to give them tickets because they don't have papers. I mean, I stood there and defended at least 6 of these people. And this happened twice in the last 6 weeks. So I really think you should have someone out there telling these people what to do. I mean, they don't know. They don't know our system.
So, I mean, I won't speak to having someone out there, but some of the things we've tried to do in the past, I know we worked with LaGuardia Airport because we were trying to actually get some inside the terminal, either machines or ways that people can get their tickets. I'm pretty sure this was an issue that I was dealing with a year or two ago when we started up the SBS 70, but I think in some of the handbooks that the, I guess, New York City Tourism that provides tourists, we do have information on using the SBS. There are a number of things we tried to do. Of course, we couldn't get better signage. I mean, your point is well taken. We'll take a look at it again. No, I understand what you're saying.
Stuart?
Just a point of clarification on this. So will this all disappear when Omni is fully in effect, that you wouldn't need a ticket any longer?
So that's what the pilot that we're doing. So what we're envisioning would happen is if you paid with either your phone or your credit card, the Eagle team, you know, the person that verifies would have the ability with some type of other device to come over to you and say, can you show me, you know, verification that you paid, and would be able to sort of scan your phone or scan that, have information to show that you did in fact pay, and it would go away. These off-board fare machines would go away.
And you'd have Omni readers at both doors, or?
In some cases, 3 doors if we have our
Three-
ticks.
right,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Great. Yes.
This is on. Okay. My name's Jasmine Melzer. I represent Park Slope, Good Neighbours of Park Slope. So we're 650 plus members of the Aging in Place community. So recently we attended one of your open houses about the bus survey for the future of the convoluted bus routes that we have, and I know why we have them that way. So it was a very disappointing open house because we had a lot of members show up, and we thought that there would be that there would be a presentation and that we would be able to ask questions and get answers, and it wasn't like that at all. So we were basically told to complete a survey that we'd already done online in any event. So I just want to know, how you're going to be compiling the data that you got from all these open houses, and whether it was a waste of our time showing up. I mean, we've done the online survey, so what's going to happen next? Thank you.
Sure. So the process around our redesigns are, and again, this is Brooklyn will be the fourth redesign that we've started. So Staten Island Express has been implemented. The Bronx, the proposed final plan just came out. The Queens draft plan is coming out at the end of the year, and now we just started in Brooklyn. So the process is that, we take a look at the data. In other words, origins, destinations, current ridership, bus speeds, and the like. We then have some open house and some outreach, which is the online surveys and these, the meetings that you described. And then we compile what we call an existing conditions report. In other words, a report goes out to say this is the state of the current Brooklyn bus network. After that, we do some more outreach, and we do some actually charrettes. In other words, we come out and we say to you, here's a blank piece of paper. Here's what we know. Help us draw maps, draw lines on the map. Where do you think bus routes would be good in Brooklyn in order to get you where you want to go? Based upon that, we come out with our draft plan, and then finally a proposed final plan, give and take, and then down the road there's implementation. The point that I really want to make is that was really only one of the initial first steps. That one thing we're very proud of in the whole process is that it's continued community engagement. I don't know if anyone had an opportunity to see, I myself was in Riverdale on Monday night because we're making some express bus changes that weren't very well received. So we were up in the Riverdale Temple listening from seniors up there, very unhappy about what we're doing. But the point being is we're there and we're listening, right? There's nothing that's final. Even in Staten Island, when we implemented the new network, we made changes all along the way until we finally reach a static network that we believe is a better experience and gives better outcomes than the original network. Yeah, so online, I don't know if it's in here, but online, mta.info, you'll see the list of all the open houses, and then as we move ahead, you'll see that'll be continually updated.
But will we get a notification of the next stage? Will we get a notification?
You mean
now
you-
it's time for you to come and put your preferred routes on this blank sheet? Is what I'm trying to find out.
So when you say me, you mean like an email go to you, or do you mean
Our
like
organization.
notifications?
Our organization.
I'm not sure. How was your organization notified on the first go around? Can you help me with that?
Well, our councilman had sent something out about the
Yeah.
open house. I'd gone online and seen the MTA fly,
Yeah.
but otherwise
So
it was
that
sort
would
of
be
just
the
word
that
of
would be the
mouth.
same process that we have a Brooklyn redesign, what we call microsite. If you go to mta.info, you could always see the latest on what's happening on the Brooklyn redesign right up online. So if you check back there, you'll see what's happening next.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You should see how many people have said to me, bring back the B-71, the old Union Street bus. So many people tell me that. Lisa.
I had it on. It just wanted. Okay, it's gonna mind if it's on. I think that the work you're doing is really exciting and making these improvements to buses. Nobody likes to see their bus compared to a chicken, right? So 14th Street, I've ridden on that, and I've actually had to like stop and look to see, wait, where am I? And did I already miss my stop because it's going so quickly? And that's awesome. And I think that may not be the most popular sentiment for everybody, but I know that there are a number of elected officials looking at the next bus-only routes. So we're happy, to provide you with what we've heard. And also, if there are any ways that we as an organization can support some, efforts for, the city council's having a hearing on Monday. Do we need more money? Is the street master plan contain any unfunded mandate aspects of it that we should be advocating that they provide? So if you can just let us know what ways we can advocate on your behalf as well, like writing a letter to the Port Authority for SBS machines and people, greeters, the Big Apple Greeter program would be perfect to look at some of the volunteer organizations there. So,
I appreciate that, Lisa. Thank you so much. From my perspective, what really we've seen over the last, we'll say 10 years, even longer, is that the bus system here in New York City has really been undervalued, right? I think we've seen over time, we've improved pedestrian plazas. We've promulgated more bicycle lanes, right? We got 1,000 miles of bike lanes today, 130 miles of bus lanes. And I think policymakers have really undervalued the bus system. I think things are changing, right? We got some really great advocacy, a lot of energy around some of the advocate groups that are pushing the bus system. Your group right here, Transit Riders Council, for sure. We appreciate, all your support. I think, some of the recent things we're seeing, namely, like the busway, for instance, those are the kind of things, if we could really get out there and keep pushing. We have 2 million bus customers each and every day that need our help, right, to need to keep pushing this. But again, there's other constituencies that are going to make their case. I know just yesterday when we were out on 14th Street, there were a couple of local residents on one block that were not very happy because they're seeing not so much more traffic, but more horns, they were saying, right? There's more horns on their block. So again, there's these competing priorities for the city, but for sure, we all have to keep pushing because the bus system really does a, yeoman's work here in the city. 2 million people a day we're actually the second largest North American public transit agency, only to our sister subway downstairs there.
Well, we know that it's going to be more important than ever as congestion pricing is around the corner, and as people are going to be looking in every corner of the city for increase and improved service, and as the redesigns come, not solely to have a cost neutral improvements, but also to have cost added improvements. So,
Michael.
Yes, I'm the one who's been advocating for this digital audio navigational system on each of these buses from 2008 to last year. I've been advocating them for like almost 2 years, and right now it's halfway delivered to some depots. Like, here's the list that needs to be that more needs to be delivered. Like Casey Stengel, Queens Village, Jamaica, all over Queens and even Brooklyn. Like Grand Avenue needs to be done. Flatbush needs to be done too. Because I would like to see, being I seeing these in Flatbush, the 54s, they need to have these inside of it.
Yeah, so every new bus comes with one of those digital, actually more than one, but digital screens. We're also doing retrofits. So, we're getting all around the system. They'll be coming out to you. Thank you for advocating for them.
Craig, the digital screens you're referring to, yesterday I was on I guess it was a M79 SBS, and when it got to Central Park West, it had subway connections, it had A, B, and C. And obviously the A is only there late nights. It's not stopping there. Are those figured by time of day, or do they just give every train that serves a particular station for the connections?
Can you help with those details, how the system works by time of day?
Yeah.
So the system should work by time of day, which means that it should work. What we will do is go back on that particular route that you mentioned, and we'll look at it. But it should work by time of day because it's real-time information.
That would be wonderful. That's
Yeah.
very helpful to riders. Chris?
Since you mentioned about redesign in Brooklyn, I have attended a lot of them also. The lady who was spoken about the highest number in 61, there has been a lot of concern about bringing back the B71 bus because it is accessibility issue going on as well. Also, there is a lot of concern of safety in there too, because from the last couple of them I've been to, a lot of them, it's a lot of the safety of not just the passengers, but I'm seeing the passengers are actually attacking your drivers. And I had mentioned this in the past already. It's been duty noted here, but my concern is the driver's safety as well. And I've been seeing it, and I can say she's not here. My mother seen it, and it's not fair to the drivers. You know, your drivers on Brooklyn are excellent, but there are some concerns of safety, and a lot of people want to know in the future when we do the redesign, we hope that, you know, the more the drafts, but also not to try to cut buses, or I understand because of fare, people don't pay, but there are a lot of areas in Brooklyn, and I'm going to talk for Brooklyn and a piece of Queens because of a lot of seniors and people with disability who like to get on the buses, and this is what's mentioned last night at the ACT meeting. The concerns are waiting time is so strong, like the B37, that even Lisa can bounce with me as well, and everyone else. Waiting time is, yes, I understand there's traffic, I've been on it, but there are times when one bus disappears, we don't know where it is. So there is the 37 bus, which covers the 3rd Avenue line, which is the faster bus than the 63, we just need to see a little more service to come into that part of the 3rd Avenue corridor because you're getting a lot of business coming down.
Okay. Did you want to respond in any way, or just that you'll look at that?
No, I mean, your point is well taken. The only response, and it's not even a response, just it's really a perspective I just want to share, is that I really think it's important for us all to, you know, just keep advocating for buses rights away. In other words, bus lanes, enforced bus lanes, because, you know, it gives us the ability, if we can move those buses along, we have extra time in those schedules to make more trips and to give you the more service that you're referencing. That's the only thing I wanted to add there.
Great. Well, at this point, let me say thank you, Craig and
Thank you.
Mike and Cordell and everyone who's here. Thanks for everything you do, and we're on your side.
Thank you for having us, and, you know, thank you so much for your advocacy. And, you know, as Andrew knows, please, happy to get, you know, comments. We don't have to wait, you know, once a year to hear these comments. Happy to get them because the more information we get, the better we can be.
Thank you so much. We actually don't have much more time, so does anyone have any issues they would like to bring up? No. All right, then have a wonderful holiday, folks.